Wow. So we had a caller before the show even started. Man, caller, let us get a chance to, get hair and makeup done and go on the air first. So anyway, welcome to the Ride Along Radio Show. I'm George Holt.
And I'm Gil Contreras.
And Gil is back. We were
back.
without Gil last week, but he is back with us. And we are back in the mix for show number 80. I actually counted them up this time. 80.
Wow.
Yeah. So we gotta rent some small bleachers or something when we hit show 100, and we can get some people in here.
What month will that be?
4 or 5 months from now, something like that.
Cheese boss.
Yeah, I know, right? It'll be toward the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
About the time we started, huh? October, November.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, we'll be here. Anyway, hey, so the Ride Along Radio Show is a show where we lend you our perspective as veteran police officers, and we talk about the events of the day, and they're typically public safety related events, but not always. Sometimes we veer into social issues and politics and things of this nature. And I'm sure we'll do that tonight.
I hope we don't.
I'm sure we will.
Quite frankly, I hope we don't.
And I'm sure Barack Obama's name will come up at a certain point, because Donald Trump's name is going to come up. So that means Barack Obama's name will come up. We'll see. As we say in Espanol, vamos a ver. So anyway, I was on a job for a long time, worked a bunch of different assignments, and I'm here to lend my perspective and informed opinion from that viewpoint. And I worked with Gil when I was a young pup back in the days.
A boot.
And he'll tell you about himself.
A boot. I'm Gil.
That's all you need to know.
That's it.
Now, he was, what was it? Gil O'Reilly for a minute.
Yeah.
But now Gil Contreras is back.
Yeah. Yeah, I left Gil O'Reilly on the beaches in Northern California.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You were up there, huh? It's nice, yeah?
It's beautiful. Just beautiful.
Nice, man. You guys go to Hearst Castle?
No. I went and do the tourist stuff.
You just went to go get on the beach and the rocks and all that. Yeah.
Don't like tourists, so, yeah.
Tourism is an important part of our economy.
Yeah, I just said I don't like tourists. I didn't say I don't like tourism.
Well, you can't have one without the other.
Well, I don't have to be with them.
That's true.
I don't have to. Last time I went to the world's happiest place.
Now, they said that about you when you went to Paris.
My daughter was 4.
Are you serious?
Yeah. She's 22?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's probably changed a lot since. Maybe not. They probably got them still dusty-ass It's a Small World dolls on there.
I don't know.
The same dolls.
Bunch of people, that's all I know.
Yeah.
Too many.
Yeah, I'm not big on crowds anymore myself.
For Gil.
So listen, we didn't have much social media feedback last week, but what we did have some feedback on, not on the show, but on a post that we've made since on our social media, and it was about a hit and run, a road rage / hit and run incident that occurred on the 14 freeway here in the Antelope Valley. So if you guys have ever heard anybody refer to Magic Mountain or Palmdale or Lancaster, any of that, that's all, or Canyon Country, that's all up that way. If you listen to a lot of West Coast rappers and they make any reference to being locked up in Wayside, that's up that way too, to give you a geographical frame of reference. So this happened, I think, over the weekend, right? Do you know when that happened, that hit and run caper?
I don't know. I thought it was on the 5.
It's on the 14.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was near some cemetery, some off-ramp for some cemetery over there, fittingly enough, although nobody died. But producer, if we can play that video, essentially what happens is dash cam footage, and if you look carefully, there's a vehicle at the very beginning that crosses the double yellow line toward a motorcycle, and the motorcyclist, I guess out of anger, kicks the side of the door, the driver's door, and it's on from there. So check this out.
Okay, we're stopping.
We are just a few minutes away from opening up the road to a brand new Highway 5. These things out of
Okay, stop.
Call 911, Chris.
Okay, we're stopping.
We are just a few minutes away from opening up the road to a brand new Highway 5. These things out of
Okay, stop.
All right.
Wow.
That is one motorcycle riding son of a gun right there. I don't know where they got that dude from. Somebody said, which CHP unit is he in?
Yeah.
Wow. First of all, to have the temerity to kick somebody's car while you're riding a motorcycle is pretty good. I mean,
That's dumb.
No, it's dumb, no doubt. But I'm saying to be able to keep your balance on a motorcycle, moving on a freeway, and deliver a kick to a car door and stay upright on the motorcycle, I imagine that requires some skill. I'm not a motorcycle guy.
Yeah.
But now what happened next to me?
There's no balance.
See, I don't know. Yeah. I would never get on a motorcycle to find out.
Yeah,
So.
I had a bike. I had a 1200, and it's a big bike like that one.
Yeah.
And you don't do stuff like that. You can't be on a 1200cc bike at an angle like this trying to kick doors.
Well, hey, but he did it.
Yeah, he did.
So he's a good motorcycle riding whatever else he is. He's a good motorcyclist.
So apparently that little car
crossed the double yellows,
cut him off trying to get into that HOV lane.
Right.
And of course that car doesn't belong there because it's just one person.
Well, and they crossed the double yellow to get in anyway. So
right.
Yeah.
And the motor, he's allowed to be in the in the HOV lane.
Right. So he was angry about that apparently, and hey, you cut right into me or whatever. There's a slightly longer version. I couldn't find it without a bunch of other nonsense on it.
Right.
But if you look for it, you'll find it's about 3 seconds longer, and it shows that vehicle crossed those double yellows to come in there. Vehicle was out of pocket, but him kicking it made it all bad, okay? And I think, and some people say, well, after the vehicle was kicked, then that driver tried to run him off the road. I don't think that's what happened because it happened too quickly. I think the person overreacted to the kick. I think they were scared, maybe startled, because they clearly didn't see him. He was kind of in the blind spot, it looked like to me.
I don't know about that.
Look at it again. I watched it a couple of times, and I think, not, just watching the video like everybody else, because it happened so quickly. He did the kick, and it wasn't like oh, really? And then they did it. It was kick swerve. So I think that might have startled them. They swerved and lost control of the vehicle. He hit the brakes. He feathered down nicely. He scooted out of the way. Mm-hmm. They hit the center divider. You saw all those sparks and everything. That was pretty cool. And then they bounced off of that, and then the poor guy in the SUV, man, had nothing to do with anything. He didn't cross any double yellows. He didn't kick anybody's car door.
He probably spilled his coffee.
I'm sure he did. He spilled more than that. And dude gets flipped over. He was the only one that got hurt out of the whole thing.
Yeah.
They said he sustained some non-life-threatening injuries. But man, that's what that looks like in real life. It's none of this Fast and Furious stuff that cars have wings and people are jet skiing on cars and none of that nonsense. That's what a real traffic collision looks like. So the question has come up on our social media: who's at fault? Was it the motorcyclist because he kicked the car door? Now some people saying somebody actually said he ain't in the X-Men, so him kicking that door, it didn't make that car crash.
Right.
So there's that. Let's set that aside. All right. Then, the actual collision, the first actual collision occurred when the person hit him, right? He did the kick, then the person hit him. That was your first probably vehicle-to-vehicle contact that he seemed to recover from pretty well. Right. Then they hit the center divider, and they didn't recover from that at all.
But the guy overcorrected to the right.
Overcorrected, exactly what happened. He overcorrected and ended up across the damn. Across the road
and punched the truck.
Flipped it.
So that looks like one of those new Chevy Colorados or Silverado or one of the two.
Yeah.
Who knew they just tip over so easy like that?
It's a high center of gravity vehicle, and basically that little car went up under it and flipped him.
Man.
Yeah, it's like a pit maneuver kind of thing, right? So the question was, and the driver the motorcyclist takes off. He's out of there. Yeah. Okay, you see his taillights off in the distance. And so people are asking, hey, was he supposed to stop? Okay, and then some people are saying, well, hell, was he even a party to the accident? Did he need to stop? And there is such a thing, and shout out to John Jefferson for refreshing my memory on this. There is such a thing as a non-contact party in a traffic collision. You can, if your driving causes something to happen, that is a contributing cause in an accident, then you are a non-party contact, whether or not your car got hit. A non-contact party, whether or not your car got hit. Mm-hmm. And you are obligated to stay. Now, for those who believe that swerving into him was intentional, then now he's a victim of an ADW.
Correct.
Right? Assault with a deadly weapon, because that's with a vehicle. You can't do that. So his thing may be, I'm going to take off. I'm not going to stick around. This person just tried to run me over. I'm out of here. But then did he ever stop and call the police? And I don't think so, because they said they're looking for the motorcyclist. So the name of the game is in road rage, nobody wins. And I just thought it was interesting because it's a fantastic thing to watch. Not fantastic as in good. It's just kind of spectacular. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
It's a spectacular traffic collision, the kind they used to put on the TV show Chips at the very beginning. You remember that? They'd be like sipping their coffee or whatever, and then they show some guy and his girl screwing around in the car and trying to switch behind the wheel while the car is moving, then something like that would happen.
Right.
And you think that doesn't happen in real life, but yeah, it does.
And then Ponch and John would be on the trailer, sitting on the bikes as being
Right.
pulled on the trailer.
Right, on the camera trailer, on the back of the camera car, like they're really doing something, right? Yeah, exactly. That's funny. So anyway, so he had an obligation to stop, and if not there, he still had an obligation to report it or stop someplace where he felt safe, etc. Fortunately, nobody was seriously injured, and hit and run is hit and run, and so a misdemeanor hit and run is if there's damage only to the vehicle. It becomes felony hit and run if someone's injured. In this case, someone was injured.
Yeah.
And you may say, well, the only person that was injured was the guy in the truck, and he didn't hit the guy in the truck, but it doesn't matter because all those contributing factors we talked about, right? So anyway, there's your traffic collision lesson for the day.
We should have brought John Jordan in for that.
I know, right?
Discussion.
I know. And I thought he was going to chime in on when I posted it, but John Jefferson ended up the other JJ, the original JJ from the old department.
The OG JJ.
Yeah, the OG JJ actually is the one who chimed in with that about that being a non-contact party. And shout out to Ray Barber for your contribution on that too. All right, so there's that.
It's a crazy video.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't believe it was actually, and then you've been on that freeway before. You're like, whoa,
Yeah.
We had a situation in Enid, Oklahoma, where a gentleman was talking to a woman who was stopped in an area where she shouldn't have been stopped, and Enid, Oklahoma police officer, actually North Enid, Oklahoma police officer, pulls up to make contact with the woman to write her a ticket, and it kind of goes sideways from there, and a taser gets introduced into the scenario.
Uh-oh.
And it's not the usual exciting taser stuff that we like to show, but it's still pretty interesting in terms of the dynamic and, escalation, de-escalation, etc.
Hi there. Hi there.
Hi.
You're parked in respect of the traffic, and there's a sign back here that says no parking on this side of the road.
He's not parking. I mean, we're so sorry.
Pulled over. Do you have your license with you? Insurance card?
I sure do. Hold on one
Okay.
second.
I mean, her car's running. I mean, we're just talking.
Okay. You can come to court and tell the judge. She was here when I drove by and wrote another one.
Ticket for sitting here and talking to
Yeah.
him? Okay, let me get you my insurance and I will be at court for you.
Okay.
There you go.
That will work.
Hey, to be parked,
It's not in movement.
the motor should be off.
It's
She
in
should
park.
be out.
Man, I ain't arguing with you.
You can't even answer my question.
Sir, I owe you nothing. You've been nothing but rude to me since I got here, and you're not part of my stop.
No, I haven't been rude to you, but you know what? You do owe me something because I'm a taxpayer. I live in that house. I own that house. I pay your salary.
Okay?
And I've been in this community since I was about 10 years old.
Okay?
And I know everybody in this community. And what I expect, your job is to protect and to serve. And you could have at least come by and you could have at least told her, you need to move. You can't be sitting over there.
There's signs up. Really?
She doesn't get out. She didn't park.
Right.
It says no
Here's
park.
your court date.
No, excuse me.
It's
I'm
over
still
here at the
talking to
PD.
you. You can listen to
Have
what
a
I've
good
got to say. Excuse me.
Back up, or you're going to jail.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Really?
Back up.
You pull the taser. Get a picture of this.
It's on camera.
Good.
903
You
starts
can at
1010.
least listen to what I've got to say. You don't have any reason to pull that taser.
Oh, I got plenty of
I'm
reasons.
going to have your job, dude.
Okay.
I'm going to have your job.
Okay.
You better holster that.
I ain't holstered nothing.
I'm getting ready to call Brad Gungus, my attorney.
Okay.
Get ready. You got a picture of this?
It's on video.
Good. Good. You're going to hear from me.
Okay.
You can at least answer my questions. And if
sir. We're done.
You think
We're done. Back away from me.
You're justified to pull a taser on me just because you don't want to answer my question? That's a bunch of crap.
Affirm.
I can stand on my property and I can say anything I want to you, dude. So you don't have all the Go ahead and leave.
I am. I'm finished with my stop, sir.
You don't think you got to answer my questions? Protect and serve. Pride in service to our community.
10:03, 1090.
10:22. I'm 10:08.
Now, usually we like to show you more exciting footage than that, but we want to show you that every incident doesn't end with somebody riding the lightning.
He would have took one more step, though.
Well, yeah, if he had kept coming, I'm sure he would have got lit up. He would have been riding. He would have gotten a dose of the Edison medicine, as we called it back in the day. Okay, so that's a situation where, and how many times do you have a citizen tell you everything he just said? We knew that I pay your salary is coming.
Yeah.
We knew that you're going to answer to me, and I'm a taxpayer, and all that was coming.
Here's the thing that just annoys the caca out of me, is when people like him start telling you, the car's not parked.
Right, telling you the law and telling you your job. Right.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times people try to tell me, "Oh, you can't do that."
Right.
And I just, what academy did you go to?
Right. Exactly.
Which law school did you
I
graduate?
didn't see you up there. I don't know. When I was doing them push-ups and running them hills and doing them pull-ups and getting yelled at, I didn't see you.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I just let them know, you didn't finish middle school, and you want to try to tell me, please, quiet down and back up. Jesus.
Pipe down.
For God's sake.
But, here's the thing about it.
Let a brother do his job.
Here's the thing, exactly. Here's the thing about it. He had zero standing in the matter. You are not the violator.
The officers know him one thing.
Nobody's talking to you, right? Nobody, no. Like he said, I don't owe you anything. He even said, I ain't arguing with you.
Right.
And honestly, to me, that officer engaged in too much dialogue with him. Because to me, I would have straight put the shine on him like he wasn't even there. He would have just been shined on while I was writing my ticket. And he tried to do that and talk to the motorist. And then the guy goes, excuse me, I'm still talking to you.
Right.
So he felt like he was, you're going to hear me out. Now, I will say the flip side of it is, because that guy made a big deal about this. This is why the video became public. That guy went and complained to the police commission and filed a complaint against the officer. And they reviewed it, and the chief of police, opened a case or whatever, and they reviewed it, and they said the officer was totally within policy.
Right.
Because he didn't taser the guy. He could pull a taser on him if he wants to.
Mm.
I mean, before it gets there, let me simmer you down because you seem agitated, And the fact that the dude just kept coming and kept talking crazy, and now the officer feels like, well, I'm threatened because you're encroaching on my space. Right. You're following me back to my car.
That's right.
You're out of pocket.
Yep.
So he pulls a taser, and he backed the dude down. But I just thought it was interesting that he's saying, well, you could have, and the same thing our lovely producer said, you could have gave him a warning. Yeah, you could. And that's within the officer's purview and discretion to give a warning or not give a warning. You don't have to give a warning.
Everybody wants a warning.
Oh, sure.
If you just gave warnings, you wouldn't write any tickets for that
and see, and what I found, what I would always do is this.
Give a warning.
I'd show up. There was one parking lot that we had a bunch of issues with in the projects, and I'd show up and I give people the warning. I just pull my car up. And then as soon as I come out, you open your ticket book and everybody starts running out. Now, if I was out there selling dope, nobody would see nothing. But since I'm out there, open my ticket book, everybody sees that and everybody runs out and start moving their cars. All right. But then I realized that people, because they knew I don't work 7 days a week, people would park their cars where they weren't supposed to because they knew that if I showed up, they'd have enough time to move them.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, I would park my car where you couldn't get out of the lot. I'd park my car, get out, and I'd start writing my tickets. And when I got all my tickets, I'd get back in my car and I'd leave. And guess what? When I came back the next day, no cars in the lot. Because warnings don't always work. If people feel they're going to get a warning, then,
Yeah, a warning means, oh, good, I don't have to go to traffic school. I don't have to pay any money. I don't have to go to court. Everybody wants a warning.
Right. I got away with it this time for a lot of people. Yeah. Some people say, man, I'm lucky. I got a warning. I'm going to leave it alone. I won't do that again.
Right.
But some people are like, I got away with it this time. Maybe I'll just get a warning next time.
I think watching the video, I think that the officer made an instant decision once the guy outside the truck started yapping.
Right.
I don't know if the officer had planned to write the ticket, just walk up, write the ticket or not. But it seems to me like if I'd walked up And as soon as I contact the driver, I have some guy that she's talking to standing on the side of the road trying to tell me why I can't do what I'm doing. Guess what? She's getting a citation.
Right, because now here's why. And it's not just to spite him necessarily, but it's also that you have to show people that that doesn't work.
Right.
You chipping at me is not why I didn't write this ticket. You ran your mouth, I still wrote the ticket because you're not running nothing but your mouth.
Right.
Okay? And really, she should have been telling him to shut his ass up.
She was hoping. She was like watching a tennis
Yeah, they're
match.
thinking, okay, well, maybe he's going to talk him out of it. Maybe he's going to talk him out. And now let's talk about that dynamic. There's a woman involved. Dude might have felt like, you saw he was leaning in the car. He had that holleration lean, like he was trying to get at her. Leaning off in the passenger window. We've all done that. And
I never did.
No, okay, okay. You never did the holleration lean?
No. Lord, no.
Well, you just squatted down on the side of the car. You put your Ray-Bans up on your head.
Gil don't squat.
So anyway, he probably was trying to get at her, okay? And he felt, I'm going to come in and ride to the rescue, and I'm going to lawyer this thing away for you and step in on your behalf. And instead, he almost got lit up in front of her.
Yeah.
And now he's a subject of much discussion.
He should have kept on.
Should have minded his business.
He should have kept on. That's what he should have done.
Yeah. Or, you know what, or how about this?
I just say, look, if you're going to talk like that and you bad, be bad.
Well, he wasn't
Walk
that
up.
bad, though. No, he didn't
Walk
He didn't want to run up. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? But see, he wasn't going to run up anyway, but especially not with the taser out. Anyway.
But this is police work.
Oh, yeah, listen. For those of you who think that the job is, just, occasionally answering calls and writing
driving around
tickets.
looking for black guys to kill. Because I know some people think that.
That's not all it is, no.
Yeah, that's not all it is.
So, for those who think it's like free donuts and
half price at Sizzler.
Right, half price Sizzler and banging waitresses and whatever else guys do.
Wow. Where'd the banging come from? We're talking about Code 7, for God's sakes.
I'm trying to be politically correct and be sensitive to the needs of the people, the viewing public. So I said banging. And I could use another verb. But anyway, it's not just that. It's more to it than that. And there's a lot of this kind of bullshit that you got to put up with from people all the time. All the time.
Yeah. And that's why you just get tired of it.
Just get tired of it.
That's why you don't listen to people.
That's what I'm saying. I just put the shine on that dude, man.
Yep.
He wouldn't even be there as far as I was concerned.
That's why
until you get too close, you ain't even there.
That's why you don't get warnings.
Well, in that case, and you know what, and who knows, that could have been an issue along that road so many times that now we just don't give warnings anymore. Now we're just going to,
Yeah.
And again, he ain't got to give you a warning, so he's not bad for not giving a warning. All right. We had something happen in the city of Los Angeles. Was it last week? We had some explorers. And explorers are police cadets, okay? They're young people who wish
they're not
to be
explorers
police
anymore.
officers.
Let's at least be clear. There's no longer the Explorer program.
Oh, there's cadets now.
They're cadets now.
Okay. Well, they're young people who wish to become police officers.
No, they used to be. They're no longer that.
These cadets.
The LAPD cadet program is a gang intervention program.
Okay.
It's a community relations gang intervention program.
By and large, when you see police cadets/explorers, whatever agency they are people who want to be police officers or express an interest in law enforcement.
At least outside.
And they're looking into it. That's how it was when you were an explorer and when I was an explorer.
It's no longer like that.
I don't know, but I know what happened last week was that some cadets stole some police cars. And they were out in the field doing things, I guess, and somebody saw them, and there was a big chase, and one of the vehicles got wrecked, being driven by an underage driver, I guess.
Well, actually, a sergeant was looking for some of his cars, and he couldn't find one. So they go into the computer system,
right?
And they go, oh, it was logged out. They go to the cameras, and they see the cadet filling it up at the city pump.
Oh, wow.
And so they figure out who he is.
Yeah.
They go to his house. They get to the house. They're there like this.
Oh, he's pulling off and they're pulling up?
They're there. The officers pull up. The vehicles take off in separate directions. The chase is on. They crash. And that's how it
Oh, my God. Okay. I had something like that happen to my police car back at my first agency, but we recovered it without it being crashed. But it was a cadet who took my car. I don't want to say the little bastard's name. So, anyway. So, these little bastards steal these cars. Okay. So, but then there was a development as they're investigating all this, and we have some video on that, and we'll play that story, and then we'll come back and talk about it briefly, and then we'll cut to break. This is the LAPD Explorer video. Yeah, it was the second one. And
so the officer, is working in the kit room.
Right, he's working in the kit room, and he's the one assigning the cars out. And apparently it was, he had an inappropriate relationship with one of the female
with
cadets.
a cadet. So I guess there's like 9 now have been arrested.
Oh my God, they probably were doing it all the time. Oh, they had tasers missing and everything.
Yeah, tasers.
Probably radios,
Kevlar vests.
Here we go.
And breaking at 6, LAPD Chief Charlie Beck slaps the cuffs on an officer. The officer is accused of having sex with an underage girl. She's one of the kids who was busted in the police cadet scandal. Chief Beck says 31-year-old Robert Kane is accused of having sex with a 15-year-old girl. The chief says Kane reportedly let the girl and other cadets have access to police equipment. Earlier this month, 3 cadets were arrested for stealing and then crashing several police cruisers. That triggered an investigation which led to the arrest of 4 more cadets, and now to the arrest of Kane.
I find the actions of Kane, if they are proven to be despicable, I find them to be absolutely inconsistent with the ethics and standards of the Los Angeles Police Department.
Our Crystal Cruz is live in Rancho Cucamonga now, where police searched Officer Kane's house today. Crystal.
Hi, Pat. A detective confirmed this is, in fact, LAPD officer Robert Kane's home. Right down there, it's the blue and white home. In the driveway, looks like 2 detectives inside of a car. Now, part of this street has been roped off for the LAPD's investigation. Now, a next-door neighbor told us off camera he's known Kane for years, and allegations of the officer having sex with a 15-year-old cadet do not sound like the Kane he knows and trusts with his very own children. The teenage girl is a cadet, apparently one of the 7 arrested for stealing cop cars. Now, a woman who also didn't want to speak on camera said she's been dating Kane for a couple of months and told me she does not believe these allegations are true, even though Chief Charlie Beck said the relationship between Kane and the teen appeared to happen within the past month. Now, neighbors out here stunned by the police presence and developing a scandalous storyline.
I'm very shocked to hear that this is going on in the LAPD. I'm disgusted. I have a child myself, and it's summer break. We have children. A lot of these kids are out of school right now.
A detective said they will be out here for several hours. The search warrant lengthy, looking for cell phones, computers, social media accounts, anything that they can use for evidence. I'm Crystal Cruz reporting live in Rancho.
So somebody tell Keisha, get off camera, Keisha.
Right, because what did she even say? I don't know what that was even about. And then they showed the man's house. Man, they've been doing that a lot lately, though.
Keisha better stop. She don't even know what she's talking about.
Well, Keisha's wanted to be on the news.
Oh, okay.
Me or Gil, both of us.
All right.
She wanted to be on the news, and she was.
No, you know what? I'll tell you what it is. It's the news editors, right? When I was at KFWB, I was covering the weather, and it was rain, and the basin was all flooded out. So I'm out there all day. I got to do 20 stories every 20 minutes, about the streets closed. That's the story. Streets closed. It's raining. And so the next day, so I did 20 stories. It was crazy. The next day, the news editor, he sees me and he goes, "Hey, I heard you out there at Sepulveda Basin. Yeah, next time, just find anybody walking by." I said, "But what if they don't have anything to say that's of any relevance?"
Right.
"Oh, it doesn't matter. We just need a voice."
What?
That's just part of the package.
Wow.
That's how Keisha.
And that's how Keisha made the news.
They said, "We care. How do you feel about this?"
Yeah.
She don't have no facts. She don't even know Kane, for God's sake.
No, but she just knows the kids are out of school right now.
Sure. And so she's afraid. Sure, because if Kane could have sex with a 15-year-old police explorer, my God, he may be a sexual predator. A child sexual predator, even worse. He could start attacking kids in the community.
In the cul-de-sac.
Let's run for our lives, for God's sakes, before climate change.
Oh, there we go.
Man.
See, there's the political and social issues that slide in there.
I'm just saying.
So, here's the thing.
Keisha girl, come on now.
He is, I don't know if the dude did it or not. We'll have to, I don't think Charlie Beck comes and puts the handcuffs on himself.
He did it.
without compelling evidence.
He done did it.
And I'm going to be honest with you, here's a little dirty secret, and some of you maybe watch Ride Along show for these dirty little secrets from law enforcement that spill out from time to time. But this isn't the first time that a police officer has had sex with an explorer. I know.
Oh.
Clutch your pearls. It's not the first time, and unfortunately, probably won't be the last time. And
it won't?
Yeah, it probably won't, man.
It'll be the last time at LAPD. Tell you
It'll
that.
be the last time he'll do it. We know that. Bet that. But you know, I knew of a case where there was a male officer who was having sex with a male explorer.
Hello.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Hello.
It was a bad thing.
Man, well, yeah.
I knew the guy too.
I was going to say something very bad.
Well, he died of AIDS. He went to prison for that.
Hello.
And then he came and died of AIDS. He enjoyed an alternative lifestyle apparently. And
look, when I was still teaching at the vocational college, there was a case in Santa Maria where a Santa Maria police officer was having sex with an underage police explorer, and the detectives were going. He was working the vehicle checkpoint. Yeah, I remember that. And so the detectives decided, because they were so pissed, they wanted to arrest him at the checkpoint.
In public, in uniform, in front of everybody. I remember that.
So the detectives roll up. He sees them coming, get out. They start walking towards him, and he takes his gun, and he was trying to. They thought he was going to shoot at them.
Right.
And then they shot him. And it was his best friend.
Who had been his best man at his wedding.
Right.
Who ended up shooting him and killing him.
Ended up killing him at the checkpoint. Yeah.
Oh, my God. I remember that. That was a horrible tragedy. That was, about 5-6 years ago?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that caper, man. So, again, it's not the first time.
All over a little teenager, for God's sakes. What is it, for God's sakes?
These dudes, man. I don't know, man. You know.
That guy been on the job 10 years.
10 years, so he's at least 31 years old.
Well, he is 31, so I mean, it means he came on at 21.
At 21, yeah. And then, you know, and I don't know. I don't understand. And you have to know that you're taking advantage of this kid who's 15 years old. You're in a position of authority, and if she wants to be a cop, she's probably looking up to you. And then, you know, there's this whole little thing. I'll do this favor for you, and now look.
Yeah.
Now your job gone, news at your house, Keisha outside talking shit. You know, man. And for what?
Yeah.
You know,
for a little teenage girl.
Yeah, and she's going. Well, she got arrested too, though. She was arrested as part of that whole.
Nothing going to happen to her.
Not because of sleeping with him, because of stolen vehicle caper.
Right.
I think she flipped on him as part of the whole thing. You know.
Well, you know, once a detective, because they had robbery homicide doing this, so once they pull her out and take her downtown and put her in the box.
Right. She got to have her parents or whatever juvenile representation, but still.
But you get robbery, RHD walk in their $1,000 suits, start talking about what's gonna happen.
Right.
What could happen to you if you don't tell us? And they just want to know about the cars. But she's so scared, she's going to tell everything.
Right, of course she's going to tell everything. And they want to know how you as an explorer or a cadet have access to the database to put all the stuff in. It's probably the same guy always putting in the checking the stuff out to them, right? Tasers and cars and all this stuff. And they would sense the pattern, you know?
Well, I'm sure because they're explorers or cadets, I'm sure that at some point, Officer Kane, he's been in the kit room for 2 years, apparently, at 77.
Well, what's up with that? That's the other thing.
Exactly. That's
another story.
That's where you go when they don't like you anymore. When they can't trust you out on the street, you go to the kit room.
Well, yeah, that's the house mouse. NYPD, they call it the house mouse. You're the house mouse, you know.
But I'm sure he said, "Oh yeah, just type it in here, just do that, just put the serial number there." Then you how to do it.
Oh, he showed it. Yeah, probably right. Pillow talk.
That's the that's the whole,
Oh, right. So now I don't have to do it because I show you how to do it.
Because I have a cadet.
Right, I have a cadet.
So I just sit there and sip my coffee while I just oversee what you. Okay.
Right, and so now they know how to do it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, shame on them. It's a big scandal, and it's it's not quite a Celeste Guap OPD, Oakland PD level misconduct, but it's still pretty scandalous. And that dude's done, man. And they got to give him some time for that. They can't just let that slide, man.
Yeah. He's got to go to prison. He's a dipshit. He's a dumbass. I mean, there's no, you can't, my favorite liberal, well, one of them, I got many, but one of my favorite liberals, Eddie Goodman, he said, "What do you got to say about this snowflake?"
He said that? Yeah. He posted it? He called you snowflake? That's funny.
"What do you got to say about this snowflake?"
Shout out to Eddie Goodman.
I said, "What I got to say, he should be in prison, for God's sakes." That's what?
Yeah, I mean, that's all there is to it, man. He's got to go.
I can't.
There's no defending that.
I can't defend any of that, for God's sakes.
No one want to defend that.
Now, the thing I will say about the whole scandal in general, the larger scandal about the cadet program and the change from the Explorer program and LAPD's desire to make this a gang intervention program or a gang diversion
So they take
program.
at-risk youth now and bring them into the cadet program?
That's right. These guys were giving gang members rides in the police car around the community.
For what?
For fun. It was fun. Okay. The cadets who stole the cars.
Oh, the cadet. Oh, I thought you meant the cops were going to recruit.
Oh, no.
Oh, the cadets, because they're homeboys.
Yeah.
They live in, all right. They're kids. They're joyriding.
Right, exactly. Joyriding in the police car.
Yeah, so they thought that was funny.
They did.
Probably got all kind of pictures and stuff with it.
Oh, man.
Wait till it all comes out.
Well, they got search warrants on everybody's. That's how they pulled all this together, with search warrants on all the cell phones. They got the text messages.
Right.
That's how they.
And that's probably how they knew he was screwing.
That's how they found out about Homeboy.
Yeah.
They pulled her phone and her messages. Said, "Oh shit! Look at this."
And now they're tossing his pad right now. They're at his house right now, all over the cul-de-sac. Keisha watching him. Cell phone video on him.
Yep. They're going to take his computers,
everything,
his tablets, his cell phones, and he's done.
Yeah.
He is DUN done. As we used to say, you might as well put a fork in his ass because he's done.
He's done. Exactly. All right.
Oh, but the larger point I was about to make, and
I got
sidetracked.
program. Right.
The program itself. This is an offshoot of this progressive city council, progressive mayor, and now this progressive police chief, who was just standing, by the way, 2 days ago, shoulder to shoulder, with Eric Holder, and that putz Kevin DeLeon in Sacramento for this bill.
Was he the speaker?
DeLeon was the speaker, and then Beck made his little comments. And Beck is a sellout. He's a progressive, and this is the larger problem with that's happening to law enforcement. Is more and more of these progressive with liberal ideas about law enforcement and the justice system. Are bending the wrong way. So when I was a police explorer, we had to go to the police academy in Elysian Park. We had to, our meetings were push-ups and running and drill ceremonies, and it was preparing you. The purpose of the program was to prepare you to become a police officer.
Sure.
So they said, "You want to be a cop? Cool. This is what it's going to take for you to get there if you really want to get there."
Right.
And they didn't make it easy, and some people just didn't make it. So some people, this is too much. At West Valley Division, where I went, they did before you went to the academy, they did what they call a Hell Weekend. So it was like a mini Buds,
right?
And we did it at an Army Reserve base there in Van Nuys, and they just wouldn't let you sleep. You were just going, and you go into class, and then you go to sleep, and then somebody would come in. I mean, it went on for the whole weekend, from Friday night to Sunday evening. If you made it through Hell Weekend, then you got to go to the academy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was crazy.
But I'll say this, though. You can't blame this on that, because we've had Explorer steal cars before any of that. And this officer had 10 years on the job, and this is his fault. The sex thing scandal, that's firmly on him. I won't blame any of those cadets for that. I'll blame them for stealing the cars. But again, that was going on way before that, and it happened way before my incident too. My old chief laid out an incident that had happened in the 80s, where they had some Explorer that was doing the same thing. So I mean, I don't tie that in with this, but I understand what you're saying, that the program is not the what's I'm looking for? Not puppy farm, farm team. It's not the farm system necessarily for law enforcement like it used to be.
Now let's get as many people from the community as we can, from the ghetto communities. Let's bring them in, and let's take them to sports events, and let's give them stuff.
And it's not about people who are expressing interest to be, but they still have to wear uniforms, get haircuts, and follow protocol and all that.
Yeah, they still have to have maintain I think it's a 2.0 or something, C average at least. To stay in the pro, they try to put some standards. They can't put too high standards, because then you'll lose all your Latinos.
Wow,
I'm just saying.
Wow, you didn't get bad grades.
It's not my fault.
I'm sure you didn't.
It's not my fault, for God's sakes. I just happen to know. Well, I'm the one who points it out, and I'm the bad guy. All right.
Yeah, well, you're the finger.
All right.
El dedo. Okay, so look, we're going to take a break, folks, and we're going to come back at this, and we're going to jump into an interesting topic. It's U.S. wants Cuba to hand over Assata Shakur, a.k.a. Joanne Chesimard. And we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Ain't that Tupac's mom?
It's his step-aunt and godmother, actually.
Oh.
All right. And that was Red Hot Chili Peppers compilation. The first Fight Like a Brave and then Behind the Sun. So, this is the meaty topic for tonight. The poet has said she may get hot in here. Because she figures our viewpoint is going to be diametrically opposed to hers. But let's see. So, there's a series of videos that will bring people up to speed on what's happening here. And the first video, which we're going to start at the 2:16 mark, will lay out who Assata Shakur is. And then we'll get into why the United States is now asking Cuba to hand her over. And then the third video we'll talk about, it will kind of lay out why that's probably not ever going to happen. That third video is a little bit long, but it's very interesting. And shout out to Imani Nile, by the way, for putting me up on this information that's contained in the third video. So that first video will be the one that talks about the story of basically Assata Shakur.
Country of great potential. To the Cuban government, I say, put an end to the abuse of dissidents. Release the political prisoners. Stop jailing innocent people. Open yourselves to political and economic freedoms. Return the fugitives from American justice, including the return of the cop killer, Joanne Chesimard. And finally, hand over the Cuban military criminals who shot down and killed 4 brave members of Brothers to the Rescue, who were in unarmed, small, slow, civilian planes.
Okay, so the Joanne Chesimard that President Trump refers to, it now goes by the name of Assata Shakur. And yes, there is a connection to Tupac Shakur. Shout out to Seymour for pointing that out. That she was his step aunt. I guess she married his uncle through marriage.
What's the lady's name?
Her name was Joanne Chesimard. She changed it to Assata Shakur.
Now, when you change your name to Abdullah, whoever, do you go to court?
You can. I know somebody who did that.
Because that's how you have to do it. Otherwise, you're still.
Well, but you see, he referred to her still. He still referred to her as Joanne Chesimard.
Yeah.
So I don't think she had time to be going to court to change her name.
She just said, "I'm somebody else."
Yeah, people do it all the time. Right. They reject the slave name. Reject the slave name. So she.
Is George Holt a slave name?
Yeah, it is. I don't think I haven't thought about changing it. If the name didn't have significance in another way that I'll talk about one day, then I probably would.
If you were going to change your name, what would it be?
I don't know. I didn't get that far.
Oh, man.
I didn't get that far.
I know it'd be good. It'd be good.
It probably would. It might have an X in it. So
an X.
So, okay. So
for the love of John.
So anyway, so she was a member of the Black Liberation Army, and the Black Liberation Army was, by today's definition, by actually any definition, but the term would be used more likely today, terrorist organization. And the Black Liberation Army went out and did things like they robbed banks as part of their fundraising, and they attacked police officers. In fact, if anybody's familiar with the case of Foster and Laurie, they made a movie about it back in the late 70s, early 80s, where they were actually portrayed by Dorian Harewood and Perry King in the movie. But they were 2 NYPD officers, a black officer and a white officer, walking a foot beat, and you had 3 BLA shooters come up behind them and just pump them full of lead. Just killed them so bad that when they put Foster on the gurney, a bullet fell out of his mouth. That's how many rounds they put in those guys.
That's a lot of lead.
Just slaughtered them, yeah. So they were prone to violence. And what happened was they were on the New Jersey Turnpike, Assata Shakur and 3 other members, or then Joanne Chesimard, and I think 3 other members of the Black Liberation Army were stopped by the New Jersey State Police for I want to say it was a taillight or something. That was the reason for the stop. The reason given for the stop. As officers approached the vehicle, Joanne Chesimard began firing rounds at the officer from the passenger seat. Now this part, none of this is in contention. She admits to this, as far as I know. This isn't the part that she even could, beef that part. Okay. Shootout ensues. Officer goes down. One officer gets gravely injured, but manages to get to cover. The other officer goes down, and he's also gravely injured, and they stand over him and execute him. Okay. They get back in the vehicle. They take off. They are apprehended and stand trial. One of them was killed. Well, actually, I think one of them was killed in the shootout, or killed in the shootout later during apprehension time. And she ends up going to prison. She's convicted in 1979 and breaks out of prison with the help of other BLA members in a couple of years later, and resurfaces in Cuba in 1984. And he used the name of Assata Shakur. And at that time, of course, we didn't have any relations with Cuba. Cuba had taken in several African American dissidents. What's the word I'm looking for, though? Political prisoners, I guess is what they would call them. Okay, or refugee. They granted political asylum. That's what they did. And so over these years, nobody has really made much of an effort to get her back. We'd ask, and they say no. And we'd ask, and they'd say no. And of course, when we had the normalization of, we moved toward the normalization of relations with Cuba last year under President Barack Obama, my friend Sheena Lester, immediately, as soon as they announced this, she makes a post and says, "Run, Assata, run," because she knows that's the next step, right? So I'm thinking, okay, well, good, man. We'll finally get some justice for the state trooper and his family, okay? Because the man was murdered, and that's what it was. Now, I know we say one man's terrorist, another man's freedom fighter, and there was an oppressive regime and an oppressive system. And back then, nobody can deny that there was open police brutality and open racism on the part of police departments, et cetera, et cetera. But you only get to claim freedom fighter, I found, historically, this is true, if you win, okay? Because Nelson Mandela was called a terrorist by the apartheid government because he was the head of the ANC, and the ANC did a lot of things like this too. But nobody calls Nelson Mandela a terrorist anymore because his side won. George Washington was vilified by King George and everybody else in England, but he won, so nobody calls him that anymore. So hell, you got to win, man. If you want to go to being seen as some sort of revolutionary hero, you got to win. Fidel Castro, had they lost, would have been seen as what? He wouldn't be on no damn coins or paper money or whatever in Cuba. So she's wanted. She's been wanted. She was the first woman to make the FBI's top 10 most wanted list, and it's been a long time. And President Trump is asking, as you saw in the video, that she be returned. And there's a lot of people who say no, she shouldn't be returned.
I don't see the controversy. Where's the controversy?
Well, the controversy is that she was a freedom fighter and a fugitive from an unjust system, which is why he granted asylum to her. And by the way, if you got something to say, 323-293-3375. Don't just throw stuff at your computer screen. And the controversy is that Cuba's not giving her up. Okay, Cuba's saying we're not doing it. Hey, we don't agree that what you got going on over there is fair. We don't think that.
Wait, Cuba is saying this?
Yeah. Cuba saying
where they just put people in jail?
Well,
communist government.
Well, they're saying that she's been granted asylum, and since she's come there, she was given a stipend and an apartment, and they paid for some education stuff for her, whatever. And she's, been able to be over there and walk around free just like anybody else. Mm-hmm. She's maintained a fairly low profile. Some people point out that it was interesting that the day that President Trump announced that he wanted her back was Tupac Shakur's birthday, interestingly enough. So that's probably a coincidence. I don't think he knew it was Tupac's birthday.
I don't think it was a coincidence. Somebody knew.
But that was the day they decided to break that out. So a lot of people are like, hey, she shouldn't come back. She can't get a fair trial here. She didn't get a fair trial in the first place. When she was in prison, she was being beaten, and there was all kind of human rights abuses, so she got away from that, and they should not give her up. And, let's play the second video because there's some more information on that. And that's the one that says play to the 2:16 mark only. Not start at, but play to.
40 years ago this year, radical Black Panther Joanne Chesimard, also known as Assata Shakur, was convicted of murdering a New Jersey state trooper named Werner Forster. A few years later, she escaped from prison and fled to Cuba, where she has lived under the protection of the Castro regime ever since. The Obama administration reestablished diplomatic relations with Cuba last year, so is there any prospect the Trump administration can bring her back from that island to justice here? New Jersey Governor Chris Christie hopes so. He joins us now. Governor, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tucker.
So I know you've been following this for many years, so you will know the answer to this. Did the Obama administration make any effort, as it was normalizing relations with Cuba, negotiating over those normalized relations, to bring this fugitive back to the United States?
None that we're aware of, Tucker. I mean, you know, I wasn't in, obviously, on the meetings that were happening in secret between the Obama administration and Cuba, but this much we know, that in cold blood, she murdered a New Jersey State Police trooper, convicted 40 years ago this week, escaped from a New Jersey prison when she was being transferred, and fled to Cuba and has been protected by the Castro regime, paid by them, supported by them, and yet we normalized relations with a country that will not return someone who was rightfully convicted under our justice system of murdering a state trooper. It's outrageous, and I've been saying it's outrageous since I became governor.
It is outrageous. What can be done now?
Well, listen, I hope that what the Trump administration is going to do is, before we take any further steps with a relationship with Cuba, that they say, listen, first and foremost, return this fugitive from justice back to New Jersey so she can rightfully serve the rest of her term for murdering a police officer. Everyone says they support what the police do every day. They acknowledge they put their lives on the line. Well, this gentleman not only put his life on the line, he gave his life. Yes. And his family has lived for the last 40 years with the knowledge that his murderer has been living with impunity in an island protected by that government. It's outrageous, and I think, you know, this is something that Secretary of State Tillerson and others in the Trump administration should make a top priority in any dealings they have with Cuba.
So you've been around government and worked in government for many years. Given your
Again, this is someone who you know, you get a right to an appeal if you stick around. But when you take off, there's not going to be any appeal filed on your behalf or whatever. And I'm sure she has no intentions of coming back. She didn't think she's ever going to have to come back, right. And she probably still won't have to come back.
So what is honestly the controversy about this?
The controversy is that they don't want to give her up.
No, I know that, but so people here
are saying that they shouldn't give her up because what was going on at that time. She was not given a fair trial, that she could not get a fair trial. Even today, she couldn't get a fair trial. And that some of this stuff was, she was framed for it, et cetera. Now, some of the stuff she didn't deny, okay? Now, I'm not saying that there was not any chance that there was some injustice involved, whatever. But even what she admitted to is bad enough, okay? And I don't think they don't even have the death penalty in New Jersey, so it's not like she wasn't on death row or anything. I think she was just going to have to serve life. So she probably would have got that just for the stuff she admitted to, honestly. So, my thing is this. Hey, we can't have you killing cops and not have to pay the piper for it, or at least make some attempt to make you pay the piper for it. Because if that happens, then, man, what are the rest of you people going to do if people can just get away with that and they don't do anything to stop that? It's a precedent that is talk about a slippery slope. I mean, but let me point this out. People say, well, how come Obama didn't try to work on that? And as Chris Christie said, he doesn't know if they talked about it or not because it was in secret. But I will say this about the matter. She surfaced in Cuba in 1984. Who was in office in 1984?
I know, I was in the Academy.
Ronald Reagan was in office in 1984. Then the first George Bush was in office after that. And then Clinton was in office for 2 terms. And then Bush was in office for 2 terms. And then Obama came into office. And now President Trump, under this new normalization thing, is now the only one really publicly pushing. He's the first one to publicly push for it. Now, I don't know, and I'm sure he doesn't really seem like he listens to anybody around him, but I'm sure somebody has broken down some of the other things that are underlying and maybe help explain why those other presidents didn't bring that up. And again, man, shout out to Imani Nile for putting me on to this information. So we have in our custody, not even in our custody, we have walking around free in Texas right now a Cuban dissident who we granted political asylum, and his name is Luis Posada Carillas. And Luis Posada Carillas was actually arrested and placed on trial last year because he lied about something on his immigration form. And I think he ended up walking or got some very light sentence or something. Yeah, I do, because it's a long ass video, but it's very informative, and it helps actually explain, if you read between the lines, some of the reasons why people are saying, well, why are we asking for her back? And also, we don't want. Some people are saying, hey, it's actually better if we just let her live her life out over there and let her just die of old age, because they're going to want to trade, and the people we have are much more valuable to them than she is to us. She doesn't have any useful intelligence, right? 40 years after she's been gone. But there are people like Luis Posada Carillas who they may ask for in exchange in a prisoner swap, but that's pretty common. Hell, we've done 5 for 1 before, as I recall, right? That could really be damaging to our interests. So we're going to play this video where we talk about who Luis Posada Carillas is. And this is an older video, but all the information is still valid.
And earlier I spoke to Brian Becker, the national coordinator of the Answer Coalition. He was down in Texas holding a People's Tribunal along with Ramsey Clark. Here's part of the conversation. Take a listen.
Texas, representatives from different trade unions and civil rights groups, former U.S. Attorney General Ramsey Clark, in order to tell the truth about Luis Posada Carillas, to tell the truth that this man, as an asset for the CIA, as an agent for the CIA, both in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and into the 90s, acted in a way that carried out terrorist actions against the people of Cuba. More than 3,000 Cubans have died since they had a revolution in 1959. And Luis Posada Carillas, who's finally being brought to trial in El Paso, Texas on Monday, is being brought to trial not for the bombs that he planted that blew up airplanes in midair and killed 70 people, as happened in 1976, or for the planting of bombs at Cuban hotels, which he did in 1990s, or his operation did. He's only on trial for perjury, for lying about those facts. So the People's Tribunal is telling the truth, that the American government has harbored terrorism, they finance terrorism. Luis Posada Carillas is their terrorist. He's been protected, particularly by the Bush family. We're going to tell the truth that won't come out in the trial that starts on Monday.
And of course, Venezuelan officials have referred to him as, quote, the Bin Laden of the Americas, yet the U.S. won't extradite him, or is hesitating to. Talk about why that might be, and essentially how they can get away with not extraditing him.
Well, it's really amazing, because Posada Carillas helped blow up in a civilian airliner that left Caracas, left Venezuela, in 1976. 73 people, mostly young Cuban athletes, were slaughtered in midair because of this terrorist act. And he was imprisoned in Venezuela, but escaped his imprisonment. Now Venezuela is demanding he be extradited, and yet the United States government won't extradite him to Venezuela because they say they fear that the Venezuelan government will torture Luis Posada Carillas. It's nonsense. It just shows the absolute hostility towards the Venezuelan government, towards the Cuban Revolution, and of course showing the world that the United States is above the law, above international law. There's no good reason, moral reason, political reason, or legal reason not to extradite Luis Posada Carillas to Venezuela, where he escaped from prison for blowing up a civilian airliner that had Cuban athletes on it.
And of course, I want to get back to this point, because like you said, law enforcement agencies, even here in the United States, have labeled this guy a terrorist. So again, why is he not being tried for terrorism, for all those acts that he committed that you described?
It's amazing. It's because the United States government has absolute hostility to the Cuban Revolution, feels it can carry out terrorist actions against Cuba, not because Cuba threatens the United States, but because it decided to be independent, and because there's a large right-wing Cuban community in Florida that is important to the political fortunes of both the Republican and Democratic parties. So administration after administration, Democrat or Republican, has shown unbridled hostility towards Cuba, permitting CIA agents and assets assets and operatives like Luis Posada Carriles to carry out terrorist actions against the people of Cuba with impunity and then provide legal shield for them. There's no excuse, but it shows complete unbridled hostility towards Cuba.
You know, in 2007, Congress actually proposed House Resolution 425, which would certify him as a terrorist and, in effect, prosecute him for those activities. The resolution went nowhere. So who is it that's sort of looking out for him on the Hill?
Well, I think it's of course the right-wing Democrats, the right-wing Republicans, political figures in Miami, but it really is the Justice Department, it is the CIA, it is the Obama administration. Luis Posada Carriles, remember, committed these crimes as an agent, as an asset of the CIA. If he were to really come to trial, he would have a lot to say, and it wouldn't be just that he planted bombs, but who gave him the money, who gave him the direction, and that goes all the way to the top. When he blew up that plane in Venezuela in 1976, who was the CIA director? George Bush Sr. He was the CIA director, and that's why they've shielded Orlando Bosch and Luis Posada Carriles over the decades. The use of terrorism is purely political by the American empire for its own imperial foreign policy aims. The fact of the matter is the Cuban government condemned the attacks on September 11th that extended a hand to the United States. Instead, the United States just continued this kind of war against the Cuban people. It set up Guantanamo, the only part of Cuba where people are actually tortured, where their rights are completely eliminated as prisoners, don't have any due process. The United States government is a hypocrite in this case, and the Luis Posada Carriles incident, his terrorist actions that have been condoned by the United States government, are the clearest example of this hypocrisy.
That was Brian Becker, National Coordinator of the Answer Coalition.
All right. So when you learn, as I recently did, that there are people like that we have granted asylum to, that we, because they were, in furtherance of our aims and the things that we were doing in furtherance of our government, service to our government. People who have committed, multiple, who have caused multiple deaths. Then when you see that we have a lot of people like that, and you realize that this is a foreign policy thing that's way more important than one fugitive, and unfortunately is viewed as being more important than the life of a single trooper, it's a lot deeper and a lot more entangled than simply, hey, them giving her up. What I initially thought was, hey, we've normalized relations with Cuba. Americans are go over there. They're tourists that you don't like, Gil, and they're spending money, tourism dollars over there. That American money faucet is open. Cuba's going to be the next Bahamas or the next Jamaica, like it was going to be back when Bautista was in charge.
It already was on you people who are always going to Cuba.
Well, yeah, but Americans now were able to, because look how close we are, to Florida, right? So Americans were able to go over there and drop some of that American money.
Or Canada, you can get over there.
Oh yeah, but who was doing that? I mean, it wasn't just like flying. It wasn't flying into the Bahamas or flying into Jamaica or whatever.
Right.
How many cops say, hey, what are you doing over the summer? We're going to Cuba, right? But people go to Bahamas and they go to Jamaica, so it's clearly a more popular tourist destination.
Well, I knew people who weren't cops that did that.
Well, I knew people who were cops that did it, but they're in the minority. You have. I was looking at as Cuba's going to be what Bautista and Meyer Lansky and everybody else who was involved in those casinos in Havana back in the early 50s wanted it to be, okay? And now it's going to be a cash cow, or rather their GDP is going to go up. Then, now you have the new president coming in, and I'm thinking he knows how to control people with money, so he's going to threaten to turn off that spigot. Hey, you can give her up, or we're going to shut down these relations with you guys. I know you just got a little taste of that money, so we're going to turn this faucet off. It's a way to kind of muscle you, because it got good to you. Just open long enough for it to get good to you.
We call that leverage.
Right, leverage, right? We're going to turn
negotiation.
Now we have some leverage on you, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm thinking, okay, man, she could end up back here. And I was actually kind of hopeful about it, that she'd end up back here, and then, that trooper's family could have maybe some sort of peace, okay? But when you look at the different levels, and again, all the people and all the, it's not that much leverage when you look at the fact that we have people they want a lot worse than we want her.
Well, I don't know. I never even heard that guy's name. I don't know how bad they want him. But whatever he did, while working for the CIA, I'm sure doesn't even come close to the 20 million people killed by Che, the 3,600.
Yeah, but he's not on the table, though. Che's not on the table.
But I'm just saying, the guy number one was RT, for God's sakes.
Well, okay, let me point that out.
Russia
Today. But what that video is the best distillation I could find of this information that I also verified through other sources.
Right.
So the story's out there.
But they
just Google the guy; it's out there.
They have an anti-American bias anyway. RT does. It's Russian propaganda, for God's sakes.
That's got nothing to do with who this guy is, though. He does exist.
That's
a real
right.
person.
He exists, but I'm just saying that they're trying to make him out to be some kind of Hitler.
The Bin Laden of the Americans.
When the real Hitler of Cuba is Che Guevara.
But he's not on the table. Or why are we talking about him? He's not on the table. We're talking about a prisoner swap.
I know,
right?
but that's my point. Is the real bad guy? You don't want to talk about him because he's off the table.
Well, he's dead.
But this guy...
He's dead. He's off the He's off the planet.
But it doesn't matter. 20 million people doesn't matter to you? 3,600 executions doesn't matter? And whatever this guy...
Well, I didn't say that didn't matter to me. What I'm saying is it doesn't matter to anybody who's negotiating because he's not on the table.
All I'm pointing out is the hypocrisy of the RT piece, number one. And number two, we've never even heard of this guy. And I doubt very seriously how badly the Cubans want him. No, she needs to come back. She needs to go back to prison.
I agree that she needs to come back. I'm just saying it's not going to happen. And this is the reason it's not going to happen. He's probably the worst case scenario, but there are at least a dozen more people like him who have done things on behalf of the CIA. They had to leave Cuba. Cuba wanted them. They're here, and we granted them asylum, just like she's granted asylum. Just like she's walking around. Well, he's in Texas.
Miami Beach.
Right. They're on Calle Ocho, eating arroz con pollo,
Boom. Cafecito.
Exactly. But, she's walking around Havana. He's walking around Texas.
Boom.
Okay? And if you look at her resume versus her crime resume versus his crime resume, she's minor league.
Yeah, she's just a little criminal.
She's minor league.
A little criminal from the
but she killed an American cop, and that's the reason I care about her coming back.
That's right. And I'm saying that, number one, the hypocrisy of the piece, number one. So I don't believe that the Cuban government is... hot on the trail of what's his name, Carillas or
Luis Posada Carillas.
Yeah, little Luis there.
His nickname is Bambi.
Okay, that's
a code name for a terrorist, boy.
That's even better.
Nickname is Bambi.
Damn. You bad when you Bambi.
Right.
But Bambi ain't that important.
Yeah. Well, Bambi's going to probably die of old age here pretty soon.
And I think, I think the Trump administration does have the leverage. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't he going to undo? I think was it executive order that Obama wrote about. It used to be if a Cuban's set foot on American soil,
it was wet foot, dry foot. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, the wet foot, dry foot policy.
So I know Obama undid that before he left.
Right, because
on his way out the door.
If you set your foot on the beach, you got asylum. But if you splash down in the water, you didn't.
On his way out the door.
Right,
on his way out the door because
that was part of the normalizations along with Cuban cigars.
Those damn Cubans, voting for.
By the way, and shout out to Don Ayala. I had a nice Cuban cigar in the city of Alhambra the other night over at Havana House. A nice, and they're legal now.
Yeah, nice and a Cuban cigar is, you can tell the difference. And if you just smoke cigars, if you just smoke good ones,
if you're willing to spend money on cigars like that, then average Cuban cigar is like a good Jamaican cigar.
Yeah.
But I dropped $40 on this goddamn cigar the other day, man. Yeah. But it was a very good smoke.
Yeah, you can tell the difference.
Yeah, you can tell the difference for a high-end cigar like that.
Tell the difference if you're a cigar smoker.
But it was a Monte Cristo number 2.
Boom.
Which Don tells me is he goes, what? They got Monte Cristo number 2? Yeah. But he didn't want to spend the $40.
Yeah.
But I smoked it in front of him, so he got to smell it. But yeah, I think that, and again, he's out there. Just you can Google Luis Posada Carillas, Bambi, and there's a lot of information out there about who he is and what he's done and why Cuba wants him and that Cuba wants him. And Ecuador wants him too, which doesn't help the situation, right? Because our relationship with Ecuador. But he blew up a plane in Ecuador that had Cuban athletes on it. That's why Ecuador wants him. And Cuba wants him because the athletes were Cuban.
Right.
So when you look at that, You know, and it was like a bunch of athletes on there.
When you have the Charlie Manson, you know, mass murderers like Shea and the Castro family, you know, pointing fingers at little Bambi here is a little bit disingenuous.
Well, no, not really. If you look at it like
disingenuous.
You know, again, man, those guys. We look at those guys in their country. They're not looked at like that, right? They're looked at as freedom fighters.
Well, not by all of them. Why do you think they come here, for God's sake?
Well, the one, yeah.
And if you ever talk to
the dissidents in Cuba, right? The ones that take off the Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz.
I had students. I had a student who lived in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
They hated Castro. They hated the regime, and they hated living there.
And that's why they came here.
And they hated that they had to come here to find freedom.
And that's why they came here. So please,
let's not make it like it was a goddamn paradise down there. And all this.
Well, I've never been to Cuba. I don't know about it being a paradise. But I'm saying that
there's being run by Dr. Death.
I think that before we ask for someone who's murdered someone, even if that someone was a police officer, that we need to understand that we're holding people here, or we are allowing people here. We've granted asylum to people here who've done comparatively a lot worse stuff, and who have secrets. Okay. Who work for the CIA and can tell them some things that we don't want them to know. Again, she doesn't have any intelligence value.
Maybe 60 years ago he had secrets. Today is an old dude with the hair the same color as me.
But they just told you who the head was the CIA was when he was doing his dirt. Head of the CIA was George Bush Sr. He's still alive.
But he's like, he don't even know what day it is, for God's sakes.
Okay, well, they still don't want the name besmirched. So anyway, Gil and I both agree that she needs to come back here. She needs to be brought back here.
That's right. That's right.
What'd you say now? Surprise. Yeah, she's not. The poet says she's not surprised that we feel that way. In fact, I'll go over there and get her myself if you want me to. But it doesn't look like it's happening just because of those other things there. And you know, in spite of what the president said, and he's got to say that because, you know, that's what he kind of ran on. So he's got to say that. But the truth of it is, when you look at really the background of it, it's not going to happen.
But
she's probably going to die of old age there.
Couldn't we just get SGI to put their people together, put a small team together? And
what is this SGI you speak of? They could put together a team if they really want her bad enough. They'll go in. Her up. Right. That's why I said she better not answer her own door for a while, and she better sleep light.
That better be more
than a different room every night.
She better leave Havana and go to some other little city.
Yeah, go work on a farm or something and stay out of the big city. Because if they want to put the snatch on you, they got dudes who will go put the snatch on you.
Yep.
And your ass will wake up in a hotel room in Chicago answering all kind of questions.
Talking about how'd I get here?
Yeah, exactly. So
when you wake up,
you'll be sitting in the Hyatt on Lakeshore Drive answering questions with a bunch of dudes standing around you with wet towels.
Assata Shakur. Please.
So anyway, that's our
Joanne
position on that.
Joanne better come back. Joanne, you better come back. If you're watching this, you better come back. Make us go down there and snatch you up. Talk about all this nonsense, for God's sakes.
So listen, we haven't
call Chris Christie. I'm mad now.
We haven't. Can we take a 2-minute break and then come back and wrap up with and talk about this last video and then we'll wrap it up?
Por favor.
2 minutos. We'll be right back.
No me
Vamos a volver en 2 minutos. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Por favor,
Jorge.
No me hables.
But it must have been a wrong time.
All right. And that was Right Place, Wrong Time by Dr. John, a.k.a. Mac Rebenack.
Just like Assata Shakur.
New Orleans' finest.
Wrong place, wrong.
Right place, wrong. Goddamn right. That was good. Anyway, Dr. John, I'll be in New Orleans in a couple of weeks, man. So hopefully I'll run into you down there on Boyven Street. You know, check you out live or something. That'd be fantastic. So, listen, the other big story, of course, is the Philando Castile verdict in the dash cam video. And we're going to play a video that shows the family reaction on the verdict, and then we'll show the video that was released afterwards of the actual shooting. Yeah, the first video one. So this is the family's reaction to the verdict. The officer Geronimo Yanez was found not guilty of manslaughter in the killing of Philando Castile, and quite naturally, Philando Castile's family was not happy about it. And if you guys may remember, Philando Castile's death was live streamed on Facebook Live by his girlfriend Diamond Reynolds, and it was like one of the first times Facebook Live was really used like that, so it became quite a big deal. So here's the aftermath.
Not guilty. That is the verdict in the trial of St. Anthony police officer Geronimo Yanez. Jurors found Yanez was reasonable in his decision to shoot and kill Philando Castile during a traffic stop last July. Officer Yanez was charged with manslaughter. The jury also found him not guilty in 2 other counts of endangering Philando Castile's girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds, and her child.
Reynolds broadcast the immediate aftermath of that shooting live on Facebook. It gained worldwide attention. She testified in court that Castile was reaching for his wallet during the traffic stop in Falcon Heights. Officer Yanez, however, said he saw a gun in Castile's pocket and fired in self-defense when he thought Castile was reaching for the weapon.
We have team coverage of the verdict. We're going to start at the courthouse in St. Paul. That is where Reg Chapman is. He's been talking with Philando Castile's family. Hello, Reg.
Amelia, Valerie Castile's emotional outburst in court after that not guilty verdict was read was followed by an emotional message to the crowds that were gathered here in St. Paul outside the Ramsey County Courthouse. Now, both Valerie Castile and her daughter Alize Castile say they have no faith in the justice system. Both say what happened today is not justice. They say they are mad that after 29 hours of deliberating, a jury exonerated the police officer who shot and killed Philando Castile.
We're going back down to 1969. Damn! What is it gonna take? I'm mad as hell right now. Yes, I am. My firstborn one son died here in Minnesota. Under the circumstances, just because he was a police officer, that makes it okay. Oh, now they got free reign. He's found innocent on all counts. He's shot into a car with no regards to human life, and that's okay. Thank you, Minnesota. Thank you, Minnesota.
The system really is wrong, and they really failed us. They really failed us once again, because my brother was a good man. You never even heard him raise his voice. You never even heard him yell. And for that man to get on the stand and lie.
Now, Valerie Castile also told that crowd that Yanez may have gotten away with justice on this planet, but he will not get away with divine justice. She says that he will one day have to answer to a higher power. Frank and Amelia.
All right, Reg, thank you.
We saw the video, the aftermath, and we actually covered this on Right Along Radio Show. It was the same week we covered the Alton Sterling shooting, and
but we didn't have the
we didn't have the after video. We only had the initial video, and we were kind of going off the aftermath, which really doesn't tell you anything about why the shooting occurred.
Right, or why
it just
the vehicle
speaks
was ever stopped.
Why the vehicle stopped. It speaks to state of mind of the officer, maybe by looking at his response afterward. But that was as close as we could get. So now the dash cam video has been released of the entire stop. And it shows the actual shooting itself. It doesn't give you the info. I'm sorry.
Right Along Radio too. It's on my Facebook. The whole.
I don't know if I posted it or not. I don't know. I know I posted it on a bunch of different platforms. I don't know if I posted it on that one. But it's on Gil's if you want to go look at Gil's Facebook.
Oh, you don't want to go there. If you're a snowflake, don't go there.
You'll melt.
Don't go to Gil's.
You'll melt.
Don't go to Gil's.
So
you're not gonna be like it.
So the video shows the initial contact, and to me, the video explains a couple of things. It explains why the department took the action it took, and to me, it explains what the defense made the basis of their argument on too. And we'll play the video and then we'll go back and come back and talk about that. Audio on there? Okay, so for those of you who are listening on the podcast, your audio didn't go out. I'm going to narrate. The officer is following Philando Castile right now. His dash cam came on because he just turned his lights on to pull him over. So now we'll have audio, and you'll hear the officer walk up and make contact with him. Notice the brake. It is out. The officer's making his approach for those of you listening on the podcast.
Hello, sir. Good. How are you? Good. Reason I put you over, your brake lights are out. So you only have one active brake light, and that's going to be your passenger side one. Your third brake light, which is up here on top, and then this one back here, is going to be out. You have your license and insurance?
I do have a firearm on me.
Don't reach for it then. Don't pull it out.
Don't
pull it out.
Don't pull it out! Don't move! Fuck! Fuck! Don't move! Don't move! Don't move! Code 3! Get the baby girl out of here! Fuck! Don't move! Fuck! 6921, get up! Back here, code 3! Shots fired! Fuck! Thanks, code 3!
We got pulled over for a busted tail light in the back. And the police, he's scared. They took my boyfriend. His license, he's scary because his license to carry. He was trying to get out his ID and his wallet out his pocket and let the officer know that he had a firearm.
All right. So from there, that's where the Facebook Live picks up. So if you want to see the other part of that and see the inside perspective of her pointing the camera at the officer so you can hear the rest of the audio and everything else. The only thing significant that happens after that kind of dispels something was out there was that they did try to render aid to him. A lot of people say they didn't try to render aid, but when other officers got on the scene, then they did try to render aid to Philando Castile, pending the rescue ambulance showing up. Yeah. Okay. I understand, looking at this video, why that officer is in trouble at his department. I understand why he was terminated. I understand why he was charged. What I see is a guy who didn't take command of the situation, and I see a guy who knew that he screwed up when he fired those rounds. I'm going on his demeanor. I'm going on Philando Castile's demeanor, which didn't at all seem to be threatening in any way. I'm going on the fact that he told him that he had a gun. I don't believe, and Gil, I don't think you believe that Philando Castile had any intention of harming that officer. Now, the officer didn't have any way of knowing that.
I don't know.
You don't know. You haven't formed an opinion on whether or not he had any intention of harming the officer?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you. Here's how I arrived at that conclusion.
I don't know, and you don't know.
Well, here's how I arrived at that conclusion.
You can speculate.
Here's my speculation, based on the facts. He had no prior history of anything like that.
The officer didn't know that in that moment.
No, I'm not talking about that.
The officer didn't know that.
We're talking about Philando Castile.
Right, but it's not relevant.
Hold on
It's not relevant to the shooting.
It is relevant in terms of where I'm going with this. Bear with me.
But it's not relevant to the shooting.
Hold on.
But it's not relevant to the... Are we going to talk about the shooting?
We are going to talk about the shooting.
Or do you want to
let me talk
about the whole thing?
So we're going to talk about the shooting, okay? And why the officer was disciplined and why the officer was charged. Because his demeanor did not dictate that there was anything threatening in anything. Hell, the gun didn't even have a round in the chamber. So anybody who thinks,
know that.
He did not have anything in his demeanor that suggested that he was threatening. And in fact, if he hadn't, and the officer never saw the gun because he said he didn't know where the gun was. So if Philando Castile had not said, I have a gun, I don't think we would even know who he was. He'd be serving hot lunches in the cafeteria, whatever elementary school he worked at, and the officer would still be on the job. I'm going on that demeanor, that there was not anything that would give you a heightened sense of danger. And that when somebody's reaching for something, now obviously he asked him for his license and his registration. It appeared to me, looking at the video, that he handed him a larger piece of paper, which was the registration. But now he's got to go in his pocket to get his license, which is where most people keep their license. The officer, because he told him he had a gun, and the word gun is in his mind, feels threatened and feels that he is reaching for a gun. That's understandable, okay? And so then you give him some more commands, but you also got to remember you just told him to reach for something too. So you can't shoot him saying, well, it's not like he just reached for totally unbidden and just reach for the gun. So I understand that. The other thing is this. Talk about demeanor. Watch this partner officer. Have you ever heard of a police officer getting in a shooting and his partner never breaks leather?
Yes.
His partner never drew a gun? You've heard of that? Because I ain't never seen it. I've been on the scene for many police shootings, and I have never had any officer that was right there not also pull their guns. Where's the threat? That officer did not feel threatened. Now, he didn't see everything Officer Yanez saw because the angle was different. Exactly. But the demeanor, he's listening to the whole interaction. He's seeing, and here's the other thing. He's seeing an angle that homeboy isn't seeing. So maybe that's why he felt more comfortable. But he clearly, it wasn't one of those situations where you got to shoot somebody and shit goes sideways. You know it doesn't go like that. There's a different energy there. So I understand why he was fired. I understand why they said, you know what, we think you overreacted on that. We're going to go ahead and charge you. But looking at the video and the totality of the circumstances and certain things that I thought were there were not there, like he told the officer that he had a permit. That's not appearing in the audio. I was under the impression he told the officer he had a permit. There's an inaudible portion that didn't show up on the transcript because it's inaudible, and you can listen to that. You can watch that audio and watch the video, close your eyes and listen to the audio. You can't tell what he said. He said, "I have to tell you, I have a weapon, or I have a gun on me," and then he ostensibly said, "And I have a permit," but we couldn't tell that. And again, as John Jordan pointed out, if the audio system on a $5,000 dash cam couldn't pick it up, who's to say the officer heard it? Mm-hmm. Okay. So having said that, and the fact that they charge him with manslaughter, which is a pretty wide kind of a charge, really, I understand why they were able to show that he was in fear for his life. If anybody thinks that Geronimo Yanez was not in fear of his life, all you got to do is watch his demeanor. Homeboy was scared. There's no doubt about it. Okay? No doubt about it.
Well,
but bare fear doesn't justify you killing somebody.
After he shot.
No. Okay, so he wasn't afraid before he shot?
No, he was leaning in the car. He was talking calm.
So he wasn't afraid before he pulled the trigger?
Even when he told him, I have a gun, I need to tell you I have a gun, he said, okay, don't touch it. Don't take it out.
So you're saying the officer wasn't in fear before he pulled the trigger?
That's correct.
Then that officer should be in prison, Gil.
No.
You just said he wasn't afraid before he pulled the trigger.
He wasn't afraid until he believed that Castile was reaching for the gun that he told him not to pull out.
I asked you. Okay, but that was before he pulled the trigger, right?
Once he thought that, that's when he was in fear.
Okay, all right. That's not what you said at first. I want to clarify that.
It doesn't matter.
I want to clarify that.
Let's not play stupid games.
No, I want to clarify that because it's important. I want to clarify that.
Oh, please.
So you say okay. So go. So I understand why
he was in fear for his life. That's why he used deadly force. For God's sake.
But you're okay. That's what I'm saying.
And I said before he thought.
You said after the shooting.
Before he thought Castile was reaching for his gun, he was calm. He was talking to the guy in a calm voice. Right. And even when he told him he had a gun, he was still calm until he believed that he was reaching for it.
Right.
That's when it changed.
Right. And I said, because he was scared, he was clearly scared. And you
he was in fear for his life at that moment, yes.
He shot. Right. Okay. But I wanted to clarify
and his demeanor changed after he shot the guy.
We play the video back. You'll see why I was concerned about the order of things you were laying it out there. So yes, he was in fear for his life at the time he pulled the trigger. That's all that matters. Okay? And I think it's pretty evident that he was fearful because you could tell how his adrenaline spiked and how he kept saying fuck over. But that's also to me the mark of a guy who knew he screwed up. And his partner's demeanor is the thing that bothers me about the whole thing. His partner still, even after he shot, still didn't pull his gun. Well, I want to hear your angle on it. You feel that he shouldn't be disciplined. You feel that he shouldn't have gotten fired or anything, right?
Go ahead and finish.
I'm finished.
That's it?
Yeah. Your turn.
Okay. So, after watching the video, now I understand why he wasn't convicted. Just because the police department fires you and the DA decides to charge you with something, it doesn't mean you're guilty, for God's sakes.
That's what I just said. I said I understand why he wasn't convicted. I said I understand why he was fired. I understand why he was charged, but I also understand why he wasn't convicted. That's what I said. That shows you weren't listening to me. That's exactly what I just said.
I don't know.
That's what I said.
Okay, so the fact that he got fired and charged is irrelevant. It means nothing. You're trying to imply that...
No, because you said he should get his job back.
I do say that.
He ain't going to get his job back.
Because you're trying to imply that because he was fired and because they charged him with a crime, that somehow they knew he had messed up, and because he had messed up, because that was a...
Where you get that from? Now you're speculating. So here's the bar.
The jury didn't agree. The jury watched the video, listened to his story, and they said, "You know what? We think it was reasonable. He wasn't in fear for his life when he stopped the car. He didn't stop the guy because he had flared nostrils, as was reported earlier in the year. He stopped the guy for a traffic violation. He walks up. He's calm. He's talking to the driver. It was what you do. You don't just give commands. You talk to people." And when the guy said, "I have a gun," he said, "Okay, just don't reach for it." And once the moment he believed that Castile was reaching for that gun, that's when his body language shifted. That's when he began to give commands. And at some point, he thought he was going to get shot, and that's why he fired into that car.
And that's why he was not convicted.
He did nothing wrong.
Hold on, but you're confusing a couple of things. Just because his demeanor, just because his actions did not rise to the level of criminal culpability, and you could get a criminal conviction on it, doesn't mean that he didn't violate department policy, doesn't mean he didn't violate best practices, or any of that. It doesn't mean he didn't overreact. It just means he didn't rise to the level of getting a criminal conviction.
I don't know what policy he could have possibly broken.
Well, okay. Well, and believe me, anybody who knows me knows that just because the department fires you doesn't mean that you're wrong.
That's right.
Okay? So I'm not throwing that blanket thing out there. I'm not a believer in that at all, because I've seen too many people get their jobs back.
Right.
A couple with no discipline at all, because the departments fire people sometime when they shouldn't. So I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is so there's these different standards. Let's be clear about that. There is the standard that you break department policy, and then there's a standard that you break the law. And typically department policy is written to be more stringent than the law, because if you stay within department policy, then you're certainly clear of any criminal jeopardy.
You should be.
You should be, okay? And they write that in there as a buffer to make sure officers don't violate the law. It shouldn't be that you break department policy and you've also broken the law. Department policy is written to be more stringent, to provide that warning track in there, so to speak. And in this case, I think he fell someplace on that warning track. Outside of department policy, outside of best practices, but not necessarily outside of the strict confines of the law, because the law is pretty clear. Mm-hmm. He was in fear for his life when he pulled that trigger. Now, again, I'll say again, bare fear does not constitute a justifiable homicide. That's written into the law. And I think, though...
What do you mean bare fear?
That's right, bare fear.
If the officer is in fear for his life, he has a right to use deadly force.
Yeah, but bare fear does not justify homicide. And so him being in fear for his life, bare fear doesn't mean anything. You have to have reasons. Now, the reason is he felt that he was reaching for a gun.
Right.
For however he formed that opinion, he felt he was reaching for a gun.
Because the suspect told him to.
The suspect told him I'm reaching for a gun. He says, I have a gun.
He had a gun. That's why he knew he had a gun. That's why he thought he had a gun, because the suspect said so.
Okay, we got a call. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
It's the Monday morning quarterback.
Wow.
Oh, geez. Let me turn
Baby sis Trish. Hey, put your headphones back on. You listen to your sister. Go ahead, baby sis Trish. Long time no see.
Yes, long time no see. So this Philando Castile shooting, it was funny because Stan was watching it on Gil's Facebook page the other day, and, I was engaged in something else, but I could hear the exchange. I didn't want to watch the video, and it's just, I don't think he gave Philando Castile enough time. He didn't give any commands, really, and then he's all of a sudden it went from, hey, your taillight's out to, all this yelling, then boom, 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 and then he's like swearing, like, and he make a comment like, I'm going to lose my job or something like that, like.
I didn't hear that, but I didn't watch the whole video either. I didn't watch the whole thing, so I haven't heard that.
But I think, one of the points that you make, George, is that, so in terms of, like you said, he didn't take command of the situation, the scene, I would agree with that, because I understand, you guys say that, police work goes from like 0 to 100 in like a second. So right. I can see how that happens. It would have made more sense if Philando Castile would have been like belligerent at the set. Exactly. As soon as he got pulled over, like we've seen those videos so many times where the cops are like, the person is very confrontational from the get-go. There's no, the guy was, if I'm not mistaken, I think the officer was leaning into the car. Like, it was such a nothing thing. And
but
I think you're right.
That's a good point, too, though, because he said he pulled him over because he thought he might be a robbery suspect. And I didn't see anything in his body language that made me think that he thought he was maybe dealing with a robbery suspect.
Why would he think he was a robbery suspect?
Where's the robbery thing? Where's that?
He put that on the air. Check out the transcripts of the radio transmission when he puts it out. And that's when you hear the wide set nose thing. He said, I'm going to pull this car over. This guy looks like one of these robbery suspects from the robbery a couple of days ago because he has the same wide set nose. That's where people are getting that from.
So if he thought that, would he really approach? Aren't those robbery suspects? Don't you expect them to be armed and dangerous?
Well,
wouldn't you expect then that, and then you were also assessing his partner's posture and demeanor approaching the car. So I think all of those things, and also you said that the partner didn't pull out his weapon.
Never.
There's like two different scenes playing out in front of the camera. There's one that the officer Yanez is engaged in, and then there's the other thing that the other officer, that his partner is engaged in. And they're two totally different scenes, but yet it's the same event.
If you split that scene down the middle, you would think it was two different traffic stops.
Exactly. And the other thing that you say is that that department policy is really meant to keep police officers working within the confines of the law. And I think it is telling, actually, when the department fires somebody because they found them to be operating outside of the department policy. But at the same time, I think it's not fair for then I think that police officers can then, they now have free reign to just fire whenever, because all you ever have to say is he was reaching for this, he was reaching for that.
Okay.
You don't even have to give a reasonable explanation as to why you felt the way you did. All you have to say is that you felt that way.
Well, but here's the thing is different. Here's what's changed in law enforcement in the last 25 years.
Well, let me tell you what hasn't changed in the last 25 years. It doesn't look like it to me, because actually I could tell you.
No, but let me tell you what you just said something.
No, wait.
You just said something. Let me throw it in there.
Before you mansplain.
Before I what? Mansplain?
Before you mansplain,
No, this is a cop-splain. I'm going to cop-splain. Because you've never been a cop. I'm not telling you because I'm a man. You could be a man and I could be a female cop, and I tell you the same thing.
Listen, I got to tell you, I just finished watching that James Baldwin documentary that I...
you told me about it. I still haven't seen it, though.
Exactly. So, if you look at those scenes, the director of that documentary...
She said mansplain, like I'm known for mansplaining. I'm cop-splaining. Isn't that why you watch the show?
You better know what mansplaining... You and Gil do mansplaining all the time. Ask OG Poet that she know what mansplaining is. She knows what it is.
The shows, you watch the show for cop-splaining. What I'm telling you is, there was a time, 25 years ago, where a police officer could shoot somebody and say, hey, I thought he was reaching for something. Mm-hmm. And the guy wouldn't have to have a gun. And people would say, okay, well, that's reasonable. And that cop would go home and he'd be a cop for the rest of his career. And there wouldn't be any more scrutiny as long as it seemed to line up pretty good. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, because this same thing that happened with Philando Castile, 25 years ago, that officer probably wouldn't have had to go to trial for that. Now, there is a lot more accountability. So you can say, I'm in fear for my life, and that might keep you out of prison, but it doesn't make it go away magically anymore. So that's the difference.
But, so this guy, he decided, so now, and what police department's going to want him? I'm sure there might be. Actually, the United States is huge. There's a lot of small departments. He'll probably, I don't think he'll have any problem finding a job, to tell you the truth. But the problem
liability.
That's right.
Let him shoot somebody else. Let him shoot somebody else, and it's going to be a problem.
But the other thing, I don't think so. I think it would depend on the race of the person that he ends up shooting. I think the thing is that the problem is that there's no justice. So when somebody accidentally kills somebody, you have to pay the piper, whether your intention was to kill that person or not, whether it was an accident or not. If you caused the death of somebody else, there's a legal price to pay for that. You usually pay with your freedom.
Unless you have some kind of justification. But keep in mind now, this is a jury trial now. Keep in mind this was a jury trial. So it's not like the judge said, okay, you're good.
I don't even think it does. It wouldn't even matter. It wouldn't even matter if it was just like a bench trial. You mean like it was just where the judge rendered the verdict?
Where the judge could say, okay, you're not guilty.
The outcome would have been the same.
This is a jury trial.
the outcome would have been the same.
Right, but you'd have a much better point in terms of who reviewed it. One person who may be biased. We had 12 people, and I don't even think it was split, was it?
I don't know.
Otherwise, it would have been a mistrial.
The problem is that, now you have the bodies of young African American men are stacking up.
Yes, and that's a problem. That's a problem.
Well, apparently, according to your show, it's not a problem.
Who said it wasn't a problem?
Well, according to everything that you guys talk about, it's usually not a problem.
Maybe your brother said it
all you guys,
was a
you
problem.
and Gil, even though you sometimes, he calls you a lefty, but the thing is, you both toe the same party line. And so the question is, what recourse does the African American community have?
I can tell you.
And by the way, nobody's even saying it. But wasn't Philando Castile? Wasn't he like a card carrying? Like he had
a
permit to carry?
Sure, he did. That's a problem.
His Second Amendment rights were totally violated. I mean,
and let me say this: Philando Castile was not treated like an older white woman in that same situation would have been treated. There is no doubt in my mind that Philando Castile was seen as more of a threat because he was a male black, and because he had the twisted up hair, and because he was in the G-Ride and all that kind of stuff. And even though, by all accounts, he's a law-abiding citizen because he's got a concealed weapon permit. They do a background on you. They don't just hand the permits out. So there's no doubt in my mind, and I know exactly what you're saying, and I hope you don't consider this to be mansplaining. How about black mansplaining? I'm aware that when I get stopped, or when I go to certain places, that there are certain expectations I have to have of my own conduct that are above and beyond. I know that I will not likely get the benefit of the doubt sometimes. So I got to be extra careful. My sons know when they get stopped. It's been a while, but I'm older now. I got gray hair and I drive a nicer car. So it's been a while now. But I know that my sons are at a greater risk of being something happened to them like this. It shouldn't happen to them because they're male blacks in America. That's just how it is. It doesn't mean it's right. But let's not act like it shit ain't happening either. And you ain't never heard me say that it doesn't happen.
But it's so easy to say, like, the shit ain't right. But the thing is, like, okay, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. It's not right. No, these people are dead. We're talking about...
Yeah, right. That's permanent. DED.
They're not coming back. There's no do-over button for them.
Right. Absolutely.
If in the United States, all we have is our legal system, right? If you go to the system that is supposed to be where justice is supposed to be divvied out, and then you get like slapped in the face by that, like.
Well, people, right.
What hope is there?
Well, and that's when you start seeing people taking matters into their own hands. Unfortunately, that's when you start seeing people taking it to the streets and figure they're going to get their justice one way or another. Okay, so, and I'm not saying that anybody should be doing that, but that's eventually what always ends up happening. So, in this case, I'm not saying that he should have shot that man. I do not believe that officer should have shot that man. I don't believe that officer should be a police officer anymore. I would not have had any heartburn if they had convicted that officer. All I'm saying is the way that it was laid out and the fact that some of the stuff that's out there, when you watch the video yourself, you see that some of those representations that were made turn out not to be valid, okay? And him not hearing the part about I have a permit, okay?
How could he have heard that? He couldn't. The only thing that Philando Castile could get out of his mouth was that, and he said it very calmly, that he had a firearm. And I heard the cop say, "Okay, just don't touch it, or just don't take." But the thing is, like, he already assumed that this is where the jury got it wrong. He already assumed that if the man was reaching for something, he was reaching for his gun. Right. And that is the wrong. There's all kinds of holes in that argument.
Even though he already told him, let me see your license and your registration. So he's reaching for what you told him to reach for.
Exactly. Then he should have given him a different command. Maybe ask him to step out of the vehicle. Maybe pat him down. I'm just going to, for my safety and yours, I'm going to have you step out of the car. I'm going to pat you down. I'm going to take this away from you.
Or just don't touch it like you do when you pull over somebody armed. Just, okay, don't touch the gun. But when you tell somebody, and here's the big problem I have, and this is why I wouldn't have had any heartburn if the officer had been convicted. When the responding officers got there and asked him, where's the gun, he said, I don't know.
Yeah.
Which means you never saw a gun.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't mean he never saw a gun. It means he doesn't know where it was.
Wasn't there a child in the back seat?
Yeah. Well, that's why he was also charged with that. He was charged with that too.
Even if you said he felt in fear for his life, at some point, though, even still, like, it still was, he did not, I don't think you guys could just shoot with people behind. I thought you guys had to clear the background.
Right. You're supposed to have the backdrop, the whole thing. Sure. That's the part that's outside department policy, though.
Under ideal conditions.
That's the part that's outside department policy. Absolutely.
Under ideal conditions, that would be the case.
So what would have happened if that little girl, the child in the backseat would have been shot? Was she's collateral damage?
But she wasn't shot.
Well, no, but you're right, though. It doesn't
matter.
But that's he was charged with endangering her
and
endangering their lives by firing that weapon with the mother and the daughter in the car. He was charged with that. And again, I guess, and people say, hey, 7 rounds is excessive, especially being at that range. And again, these are all the things that led up to why he's fired. Okay? The fact that he didn't have a good backdrop, maybe the fact that he fired so many rounds, the fact that he never saw the gun. But when it got brought to the legal system in front of a jury of his peers, and it wasn't an all-white jury either, those people agreed
he wasn't white.
He didn't. But white people, white juries tend to side with the police. That's just how that goes. So that's why I bring that up. It's not that they're siding with him because he's white. They're siding with him because he's. That's not the truth, Gil. You ain't never heard that before? Did I just pull that out of my ass on the air right now?
Can I just tell you that?
Well, juries anyway, they don't put. It doesn't even really matter.
There's a reason for that. There's a reason that the jury in this case came up with a verdict that they did, and it was because of the jury instructions. In a courtroom, you're not allowed to take how you feel into consideration.
No, it's not a matter of how people feel.
It is a matter.
It's not true, Bill. Not in this case. Fear.
You can ask questions about his line of thinking, absolutely.
Right, exactly. So feelings do matter in a case like this.
If I give him a command,
talking about
if
feelings,
if you give the driver a command and say, give me your license and registration, but you've already told me you have a firearm, so you're not going to reach for your license and registration, you're going to automatically reach for your firearm? There are all kinds of holes in that argument. You have to know that.
You guys
conflicting instructions, which is why he's not a cop anymore. Who's speculating? We heard the audio. He told him to reach for his license and his insurance.
So what? The gun changes everything.
It didn't change everything because he didn't order him. He didn't get him out of the car.
He did not follow commands.
Him to. He could have patted him down.
He didn't have time. He didn't have time because
he wasn't thinking, and that's what you.
Give him other commands.
Castile started to move, and the officer believed he was reaching for the gun that he told him he had.
He's not in prison.
That's why he got shot.
That's why he's not in prison.
That's why he didn't get out of the car. That's why he didn't get out of the car. That's why he didn't get out of the car.
He's always going to say that. Whether that was true or not, that's what he's going to say.
Whether you like it or not, that's how police work is.
Here's the bright defining line here, though. The reason that he's not in prison is because Philando Castile ignored his commands to stop. Hey, don't reach for it. Okay. However, the reason he's not a police officer
don't reach for what? What was he not supposed to reach for? No license and registration.
Let me. Okay. Now I'm going to do some more cop-splaining. Okay. I'm going to do some sergeant-splaining here. Okay. He was supposed to give him commands. And the commands aren't necessarily don't do this. The commands are do this. He should have told him put your hands on the steering wheel. That's a direct command to do something. Now that cancels out the command I just gave you when I asked you for your driver's license and your registration. Put your hands on the steering wheel means put your hands on the steering wheel. Had he done that, we probably would have seen a different thing. But again, he did have fear. He felt, there's those feelings. He felt fear. He felt that he was in fear for his life. And he discharged a weapon, and he was able to articulate why he felt that he was in fear for his life. And this is why he's not sitting in prison. Okay? This is why he's not in prison right now. That's why he wasn't convicted. But why he's fired and why he was charged is because he didn't do the other stuff he was supposed to do as a police officer. Okay? So there's that line between department policy, there's the warning track in the middle, and then there's the law. He's on the warning track, so now he's in the unemployment line. But that beats the soup line in the joint, I guess, or the child line, or the tossed salad line, or whatever they got in prison nowadays. So, that's why I say the video explained to me why he was fired and why he was charged, and also why he walked.
And the video explained to me why Castile got shot.
Of course. Well, if according to you, the cops are always right.
No.
I don't think either one of us says that.
Oh, by the way, and I loved your comment today too when somebody commented about the stupid police officer who was sexually assaulted or sexually had a relationship or whatever with one of the cadets, and you didn't blame him, you blamed Chief Beck. It's never the guy out on the street. It's always somebody else.
You just said he was a sellout.
It's always progressive policy.
No, Gil said he should be in prison. Gil said he should be in prison.
He should be in prison for that.
Chief Beck raped the girl like I did. We did blame him. Both of us blamed him.
Chief Beck shouldn't go to prison.
Not for that.
No.
No, but you never have fault. You never find fault with the rank and file.
No,
It's
we did
always
though.
Everybody else.
We both said that. We both said he should go to prison.
We better run back the tapes.
We both said that.
Yeah, Gil's not sure what he said.
Man.
Trish, you better go back to eating pizza or whatever you were doing, for God's sake.
I wasn't eating pizza.
You guys are something else, man. I was going to try to come over for Thanksgiving, but I don't know now. Hey, what do you say, Gil? Chispas, right?
Chispas.
Damn.
Yeah. You don't want to come to the Contreras house. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, hey, baby sis Trish, we appreciate your call.
If you do, where you're
All right, it's been fun.
You got to
hey,
come
is
in
your
sometime.
show now from 8 to 10 o'clock?
It is because you called.
Oh. Well, you're the one who put the
so she letting you talk.
The Philando Castile should have been from the gate.
Oh, I know. That should have been the first story up.
I know. I was confused. I'm like, why is Russian time zone? I don't see their show. Like, I couldn't get to it.
Russia Today,
Anyway.
I think. Russia Today.
Yeah.
It's Spetsnaz. We're doing the Spetsnaz.
That was George.
Okay, well, it's been fun.
Running Russian.
Thank you.
Propaganda.
Okay, have a good night.
Bye, you
Bye.
too. Bye. And that was Trish Navarratna Singham, also known as Trish, baby sis Trish Contreras, I guess it was at one time.
It was.
And then she said, I'm going to get this name off my back. Let me go marry this dude. And let me get a long-ass name. Don't sound nothing like Contreras.
Because she loved him too much.
Navarratna Singham.
Loved him too much.
Anyway, listen, folks. This has been a barn burner of a 2-hour episode of the Ride Along Radio Show. And you're probably going to feel a certain way. And we need to know how you feel. Because feelings are important. Social
No, they're
media
not.
feedback.
They're not relevant.
So look right down here at the YouTube comments. Leave your comments down there. And we're going to hurry and get off the air before Willie Sweetwonka Joe calls in from Georgia. He's probably back home from the strip club because it's midnight there. So, and shout out to Imani Nile again. I'm going to have to brand you, Right Along Radio Show legend Imani Nile, who's frequently left comments and contributed and gave up some good information for tonight's show topic. So I am George Holt. This is Gil Contreras.
Thank you.
Better known as a brother of Trish Navarratna Singham. And you can like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Gil Navarratna Singham. And you can shoot us a tweet at Right Along Radio. So until next week, this has been show number 80. And we'll catch you guys later.
Oh, shit. You the fuck?